Plans to protect air and water, wilderness and wildlife are in fact plans to protect man. Stewart Dare. Today I'm speaking to someone whose job involves lots of planning, making strategies at a national level for the sustainable environment. Balasubramanian Viswanathan is an associate in International Institute for Sustainable Development Energy Program. He engages in data collection and analysis, stakeholder consultations, policy review, project management, and communication on issues related to a clean energy transition. He is based out of New Delhi, holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in sustainable energy engineering from KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Sweden. Welcome to POOLit Pod. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. I'm all fine.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Bala, at the onset, I would like to ask you what motivated you to pursue a master's and career in sustainable energy?
Actually, this started around my second or third year of undergraduate study. I was doing bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And at that time, I wanted to figure out what kind of career path options are available. And I found this magazine where they did a survey of what experts say. And one of the things that really caught my attention was something called energy engineering. So I did some projects on renewable energy, and then my bachelor's thesis was on green buildings. And then I wanted to do something which is more applicable. And I found one master's program, which, like at least what they described was, we help do science-based policymaking, and that really appealed to me. So that's why I pursued this master's. And once I was in the program, I realized this is something I genuinely connect to, and the fact that I can use my background engineering and science and work to support good policy making to help this sort of bigger challenge of addressing climate change really sort of spoke to me, and that is why I chose this.
I would say it is sure out of passion you have pursued your career. The thing which you got interested in, you were like, why not?
Exactly. Really engaging, and the fact that there is a bigger cause or there is something motivating me, it sort of like appealed to my sense of like, okay, I need to do something. And that's really why I chose this.
Bala, I know you work for International Institute for Sustainable Development. Let's talk a bit about your current job.
I work with the energy team. So ISD is still an international think tank, but we have an India program, and I work with the India program. It's a very sort of, I would say, conventional policy research organization. And what we do is do various studies, and some of the projects that I've been involved in over the past 2.5 years have been on building data transparency around issues like energy subsidies, on research projects where we can, like, reform the incentive structures and tariff mechanism so that we can support clean energy to come up further. And also looking at some of the social causes that might happen, let's say, with regard to air pollution from coal power plants and so on. So these are the general areas of work that I have been doing, and I tend, my focus has been on trying to do some calculations and analysis, review policy, understand what the literature says, and try putting out these reports. And at the end of the day, what we do is put out our reports open for public. Can be journalists, policymakers, industry, people in the industry, or any other interested citizen can also view, and sort of where applicable they can act on it. So that's really what we do, and that's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years.
Your job sounds really interesting, and it looks like it involves lots of planning, making strategies for the sustainable environment, Bala. And if you can, share with us any of this strategy that you or your team member has come up with, that would be great.
One thing, of course, bad disclaimer, I didn't come up with this. This is a part of my team. With this concept called subsidy swaps. So we explored this in the last few years, where we try identifying support mechanisms given to certain fossil fuels or carbon intensive fuels, and think about, would it work if we can take these subsidies away and use the same sort of like amount that you have and reinvest it to support other clean alternatives which perform the same role. Like for example, one of the studies that we did was on something called kerosene to solar subsidies, where you can look at a household which uses a kerosene lamp, and if you were to take away like if you were to use the subsidies now given to kerosene and instead use it for solar lamps or any other form of solar lighting, because there can be other co-benefits, like if it's a solar powered lamp, you can also charge your mobile phone or other smaller devices. We found out the economics of this work much better because there is a capital cost involved with solar lamps and lighting, but over a longer period of time, it turned out to be significantly cheaper for the households rather than paying for kerosene on a per liter basis. This is just a small example, but as a principle, we feel that something like this can be applicable for many things, where you can just divert the funds which are going for these institutionalized sort of, we can say that it's kind of bad for the environment, and redirect to something which is more sustainable in its use. And obviously, at the end of the day, the benefactor doesn't feel burdened by having to change. So this is just like one example of a concept that we worked at ISD over the last few years.
Oh, that sounds really economical, useful, and, it's something that can be used in a very long run. I'm sure you people must be having so many other strategies for the sustainable environment. And as your job profile is all about how we can protect and bring sustainability in our environment. Bala, I was going through your profile and I could see that lots of research must be going on to preserve energies and its impact on
Right.
environment. Why you being a professional in this field think that the solar power is becoming more and more popular now?
It's been in the vogue now, but I would say that especially in India, solar power has been like growing in prominence over the last almost a decade, I would say. Many reasons. First, like of course, the one that really appealed to me first was it caught your imagination. Just the power from the sun, and you can use it to produce electricity. It came as a very simple thing. But obviously, in the real world, things like economics, incentives, and market structures matter. For one, the prices of solar photovoltaic panels, the panels that you put up, have come down dramatically over the last 10 years or so. And now it is one of, if not the cheapest form of producing electricity in India. The other sort of cool thing about solar is that you can scale it up. So you can put up a small plant like right outside in my balcony to like a huge wind, like a huge farm, which can like power an entire town or a city or something. So that is an interesting thing. And now as more investments have come in, more market players have come, more private companies have come, set up power plants, and they have realized that it's working, and there is investment. And of course, like you can't also deny the strong government push for increase in solar power, supporting through subsidies and promoting the whole ecosystem. I guess it's a confluence of several reasons which has really put it out into prominence. And yeah, it's definitely going to, like, the capacity of solar power in India is going to keep increasing over the next decade as well.
Okay, so it is an engine behind to make it popular. It's not by itself. There is a forces behind it to make this form of energy more popular, so that we do not have burden on our non-renewable resources. And there are many factors that are impacting our environment. But Bala, we are mainly focusing on carbon footprints. What do you think? What are the shortcomings of only predominantly focusing on carbon footprints, and what should we be looking at instead of purely focusing on carbon footprints?
Okay, so this is an interesting question and something like a classic question that comes up in India, especially. because any transition or any sort of change that we want to make the world more sustainable, carbon footprint is one of the more important factors. Carbon, of course, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and increased greenhouse gas has caused climate change, and that is really what we are fighting against. But in the process, it should not come out as something that is financially unviable, hurts people. So it should be socially equitable, economically viable, and of course, environment friendly. So all these other factors come in when one analyzes the sustainability of something, and carbon footprint is, of course, a component of it. There are other things like land usage, water usage, whether it hurts any communities, and what is the impact it can have on ecology. All these parameters must also be factored in when one proposes an idea towards a transition. And this also comes down to our individual lifestyles or what we do. So carbon footprint is one aspect, but there are other things that we can do which can like sort of be just sustainable practices. This is the reason why I think we should sometimes look beyond just carbon footprint. But again, it is still quite important.
Yeah, absolutely. We cannot ignore carbon footprints, but we can divert or take our attention to other factors as well, which are equally affecting our environment. Bala, we are almost towards the end of this session. And if you can share one or two sustainability tips that even a common person can incorporate in their day-to-day life.
It's a policy researcher, and it's also my opinion in that individuals should contribute towards being more sustainable to their own capacity, but we should also hold governments and bigger corporations accountable. So this is like sort of like, I want to just caveat this saying it's not just us who has to move and be more sustainable. It's like the entire system. That said, as individuals, we really have two options, right? One is we can be more efficient in our resource consumption, and two, we can switch to more sustainable alternatives. And like being efficient is like, running your devices more efficiently and like not wasting food or water or electricity or any resource that we consume. And the other is switching to things like, for example, if you were to bike somewhere, like you were to take a car or something, if you could switch to public transport. That one other thing personally, which I have realized when I did a little bit of carbon footprint calculations, is international travel via airlines. Like if you take a transcontinental flight or something, tend to be really high, have a really high carbon footprint. So yeah, if you can be smart about that, that would probably be have quite a big impact, I would say.
Rightly said that every individual should take their own small efforts to curb their carbon footprint, but at the same time, the association, government, the state government, everyone should also do to the maximum capacity of bringing plans, projects, and strategies in place to protect our environment. With that, thank you so much, Bala, for giving your time for POOLit Pod and sharing your experience, knowledge with our viewers. Thank you so much for watching this episode with Bala. If you enjoyed it and want to watch more of sustainable environment related videos, then subscribe to POOLit on YouTube and follow us on other social media channels. Till then, be safe. Signing off, Nasima Khan, POOLit Pod.